Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of DFS by Cage. This is episode 31, where I break down my DFS DraftKings lineup for UFC 275. As always, I am your host, Cage. I am the host of Cage My IQ. If you haven't done so already, and this is your first time tuning into the network, all I ask you guys to do is to follow and subscribe to us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. All you got to do is type in Cage My IQ and follow and subscribe to us on all those platforms. All of our video episodes are on YouTube. So just don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And then, of course, for this DFS by Cage episode, please smash the like button down below and hit us up in the comment section to the right. Let us know what you think of my DFS lineup for 275, and then give me your picks on who you're going to use for your DraftKings lineup for this pay-per-view coming up this Saturday live from Singapore. And of course, we are sponsored by High Tide Herbal. If you don't know who High Tide Herbal is, check out the video right here.
Offering high-quality, sustainable products with all-natural, lab-tested ingredients, it's High Tide Herbal's mission to help others live the longest, healthiest, and most productive lives possible. Their hemp-derived CBD products have a wide variety of uses, from helping sore muscles to skin hydration and minimizing skin irritation. They generate results based on your specific needs. Elevate your lifestyle with the new wave of wellness. Visit hightideherbal.com to learn more.
Once again, that's High Tide Herbal. The promo code that we're working with High Tide Herbal is all you got to do is go to checkout, put in promo code CageMyIQ10 as you see down below to receive 10% off your next purchase. Once again, that's promo code CageMyIQ10. Let's break down into my DFS lineup for this week. As you know, it's a 6-fighter lineup. You have $50,000 to spend on 6 fighters. As always, I break down from least expensive to the most expensive fighter. It gives a little bit of consistency to the list. We went 50-50 last week. We had some great picks. Lucas Almeida was a very good pick. Of course, we didn't hit on Mazarov, and we didn't hit on Zardinho Rosenstruck, but the other picks hit, so it was a wash week for us. Let's try and get back into the win column this week with a nice lineup. We did do very well the 2 weeks beforehand, so let's redeem ourselves on this pay-per-view. We got a lot of fighters to choose from. This card has 2 championship fights. We got a big-time rematch with the third fight between Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Zhang Wei Li. And we got some underrated prelim fights on the card as well that we have that we can choose from. That's going to make for a great week in fantasy and in betting for UFC. But let's start with showing who we're going to use this week, and then once I show you guys the 6 fighters I'm going to use, I'm going to break it down fighter by fighter to let you guys know why I'm choosing all 6 fighters. The first fighter that we're going to go with is Jacob Malkoun. He costs $7,200. He's going up against Brendan Allen. He's 6-1 with 81.3 FPPF. Choose him right there. The next person we're going to go with is Ho Kang. He is 7,900 salary. He's going up against DanielBakley. He's 17-9, 79.1 FPPF. The next person we're going with is Jack Della Maddalena. He is 8,200 salary. He's fighting against Ramazan Ameev. He's coming in 11-2 with a 117.2 FPPF. The next person we're going with is Andre Diallo. He's a guy that we used a couple of weeks ago. He is 8,500. He's going up against Jake Matthews. He's 16-4 with a 79.9 FPPF. And then the fifth person we're going with is one half of the main event, Yuri Prochaska. He is 8,900. He's going up against the champion Glover Teixeira. He's 28-3-1 with a 106.1 FPPF. And lastly, we're going with Manel Cape, aka Starboy. He is 9,200. He's going up against Rogerio Bontorin. He is 17-6 with a 74.5 FPPF. So those are fighters right there. Breakdown. Let's do the breakdown for each fighter right now. First, we got Jacob Malkoun, aka Mamba. We broke down all of the stats already. As you see right there, he's going into his fourth fight in the UFC. He is primarily a boxer and a wrestler. He trains with, of course, everybody knows Robert Whitaker. They've basically worked hand in hand together. The one has the big time wrestling background, one has the big time boxing background, and they've been kind of working hand in hand to improve each other's weaknesses in the game. We've seen it. And then the first fight against Spencer against Phil Haas, he came in and he got KO'd in the first minute of the fight. It was kind of one of the worst case scenarios for him. But then since then, against Razak Alazan and then Dobson, two power guys who have power in his hands, but can also grapple a little bit. He basically dominated these twos on the mat. As you see right there, he averaged 7 takedowns a fight in those last two fights. He had an average of 10 to 11 minutes of control time and over 130 strikes on average, mostly ground and pound in those matchups. But in the Dobson fight, he's also showed a little bit of maturity in his stand-up striking as well. He had over 80 significant strikes in that. He showed that he can stand up and throw a little bit and then mix up the ground game with the boxing, which is going to be a big time deal in his fight against Brendan Allen, because Brendan Allen, to me, he's more of a submission ground artist than himself. So I think a lot of people are going to think that Brendan Allen's going to have the advantage on the feet. I feel like Malcoon's going to have the advantage on the feet, and then he might have the advantage with the takedowns as well, because the only thing that I feel like Malcoon's going to have to worry about is the submission game, because Malcoon with his takedowns is more about keeping position over changing and getting into spots to attack for submissions or ground and pound. He takes you down and he just lays on you and wears and tears on you and then throws a little bit here and there. And because that's what he is within the wrestling realm. But on the feet, he can throw those combinations. He trains well with like I said, Robert Whitaker. He's been improving. And I think this is a big time matchup where you're going to see him more than likely beat Brendan Allen by decision. I could see anywhere from 50 to 60 significant strikes. I could see him getting 7 to 8 minutes of control time and over 100 strikes total. And I'm going to say 3 to 4 takedowns. And he might get a knockdown. It all depends. Brendan Allen is a tough opponent right outside the top 15. But what I've seen from Jacob Malkoun, he's probably one of the biggest bets to go with this week to get the upset with what he has. Like fighting wise with the boxing and the wrestling, and the chances that he could get over 100 fantasy points for the price tag. So the first person I'm going with is Jacob Malkoun. Moving on to the second fighter in my lineup, I'm going with Ho Kang. As you know, he's going up against DanielBakley. Bakley is more of a stand-up striker. He has nice calf kicks. He has a nice fury of a left-right hand. He's mostly moving forward, attacking you. But he has been prone to being taken down by guys who were versed in the wrestling game. And in his fight that he had against Altang Haley, he was taken down 2-3 times. in that fight, and then Alton Hanley was able to piece him up a little bit with the speed game, with his striking, and he was able to pull out the victory over DanielBakley. And for a guy like Kang right here, as you see, in his last 5 fights in the UFC, right there, he is 3-2, and he has gone to decision all but one fight in which he won that one by submission game. This guy's has a big high level wrestling background and jiu-jitsu background. He's all about getting the fight to the ground several times and then using the jiu-jitsu game to try and get his opponents into situations to where he can get to submission entries and submit them. More so, he's used a lot of wrestling. He's only been able to get one submission, but he's been working on his striking within the ground game as well. As you see right there, take away from the last fight, he kind of didn't try and go for the takedowns too much because Ronnie Yaya is one of the biggest submission artists in the game. So he stuck with the stand-up game, and he looked very well in that. He had 43 significant strikes. He had the knockdown and a minute and 5 control time and over 103 total strikes. It's just that Yaya was able to do just enough with the takedowns to edge him out in the decision there. But before that, he had 3 takedowns, 1 and 1, and he's able to get the fight to the mat and enforce his will and just push to decision victory. And I think against DanielBakley, if Kang could get the fight to the ground, which I think he can, he should feel good about himself to get the decision victory, because I feel like Bakley's takedown defense isn't as well as people think it is. It's just that he has been tested in the last 3-4 fights after that Alton Hanley fight. He hasn't been tested takedown wise, and I feel like Kang's going to test him out. I think Kang's going to get 2 to 3 takedowns. He's going to do a little bit of ground and pound work on him, and he's just going to gut out a decision victory here over Bakley. The only thing he has to watch is when they're standing, he has to watch out for that overhand shot from Bakley. But as long as he doesn't get hit with anything crazy like that, I think Kang can pull off the upset here and be very valuable in DraftKings this week. So once again, I'm going with Ho Kang at 7,900. Moving on to the third fighter that we have, Jack Dillo at Madalena, 8,200 salary. He's going up against a grappler in Ramazan Emeev. In his only fight in the UFC against Rodriguez, he had that round 1 KO TKO, in which he poured in 43 strikes in that, and then had the one knockdown in which he KO'd him. This guy's going to come in against a grappler like Emeev. He has a vicious jab that he just pieced up Rodriguez. He's going to keep on throwing it to keep the distance. He's going to mix in the combinations. He's going to throw a leg kick here and there just to keep him at bay. But a lot of the game's going to be just the jab and overhand shots where he's going to just do repeat damage to him. And when he gets that moment, I think he's going to knock out me in the first or second round, and maybe more so the second. I think the first is going to be just initiating the jab into it, making sure that he can defend the takedown, but keep me at that kickboxing distance array so he can just keep on throwing that jab. That's a big part of his game. I think it's going to be a very effective in the fight where he's going to be able to do a lot of damage with just a simple strike like the jab that he has, because he puts a lot of force into the jab. And at the end of the day, I think he gets the knockout in round 2. He avoids majority of the takedowns. He does the damage like he did against Rodriguez to me. And with that, he's going to be very lucrative fantasy point wise in DraftKings this week. So with the next person, I have Jack Della Madalena at 8,200. Moving on to the fourth fighter in the lineup, we got Andre Diallo. As you saw him a few weeks ago, when he fought Van Camp. Van Camp took it on short notice. He took it on there. The boxing of Diallo is just going to be his bread and butter, and just like he's showcased in the Baeza and Van Camp fights. As we know, he lost in his debut against Mika Ferrer. That was a tough first fight to deal with. Ever since that fight, Ferrer's been on a hot streak. So it's nothing bad to take a loss off of, but he performed very well in that. It went to decision, and both guys had their moments in that fight. But since then, he showed off his power against Baeza with his striking. He knocked him out at the end of the first round. And then he fought Van Camp, where he knocked him out in the middle of the first round. And in both fights, he had over 100 fantasy points. It's going to be all about the fury, the crazy shots that he throws at his opponent. And he's going up against a savvy veteran in Jake Matthews, who has good grappling, who has good hands, and is good with his jiu-jitsu. It's just that he hasn't fought anybody with sure power like this since he fought Kevin Lee, in my opinion, and Kevin Lee knocked him out. And since then, Jake Matthews has gutted out decision victories in all of his fights. And then his last fight, he got submitted by Sean Brady. Sean Brady was able to knock him good several times, but it took a submission by Sean Brady to get the finish late in the fight. But Diallo is going to come in there. He has shore power. He will be able to knock out Jake Matthews. It's just a matter of when he's going to do it and how and what round. I think he gets it done in the first round. I feel like if Diallo can come in there, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to avoid the shots from Matthews. He's going to avoid the takedowns, and he's going to come in there and he's going to knock him down once, and Jake Matthews is going to recover, but then he's going to finish him off late in the round. I think Diallo gets it done round one. I just really love his boxing style, the way he's been fighting the past two fights. Even in the loss to Ferrer, he showcased a lot in that fight, even in a loss. And he's been able to incorporate some of the what he wanted to fix from that fight into the last couple fights. But it's not like he hasn't fought a bad competition. He's fought really good competition between Ferrer, Baeza, and Van Camp. A lot of guys outside the top 15, minus Van Camp, because that was a short notice replacement. But now he gets to fight 3 weeks later against Jake Matthews. I feel like he's still going to be in that fight camp mode. He's going to come in there and just blitz Matthews and knock him out early. So in this one, I got Andre Diallo at salary of 8,500. Moving on to the fifth person in my lineup, we got one half of the main event. We got Jiri Prochaska at the salary of 8,900. His nickname is BJP. He's fighting Glover Teixeira, as you see there in his 2 wins in the UFC. He fought top 10 fighters, Volkan Ozdemir and Dominic Reyes. And in both fights, he got knockouts in the second round. In the Ozdemir one, it was more a tested fight in that one, where both guys were going back and forth in a low volume nitpick type fight, where he got the crazy knockout in the second, where he just touched him up and he was able to stun him. And then in the last fight, he poured in a lot of volume against Dominic Reyes, and he was able to get the backhanded knockout in that one. This guy, the only weakness with Jiri's game, I feel like, is his cardio, because he does a lot of work in the beginning of fights, as you see right there. He pushes the throttle, the turbo. He goes guns blazing right away. He attacks you with his legs. He attacks you with his hands. And he can grapple up with you. But majority of his game is mainly his striking. I like the little calf kick that he does from time to time. He throws the leg kick to the head, but his hands are just knockout power. And then he comes at you from all angles. He'll do the backhanded. He'll do a jab. He'll do overhand shots. He'll mix in the leg kicks with the striking. And against a guy like Glover Teixeira, who is 42 plus years old, he has knockout power, but he has changed his game up a lot over the years. So now he's more of a wrestler, grappler now, and then he adds in the striking on top of that. The striking is more secondary now. I think Yuri's going to have chances to be very aggressive early, try and get him out in the first couple rounds, because this is a 5-round fight. As the fight goes longer, I feel like it might lean towards Glover in rounds like maybe 3, 4, 5. But to me, in the first round or two, it's going to benefit Jiri Prochazka and his striking. And I think he's going to have a lot of chances to do damage to Glover. It's just a matter of if he's going to be able to finish Glover in his first 2 rounds, or if Glover's going to be able to withstand the onslaught that he's going to have to deal with before he can get his wrestling going and start to wear down Jiri as the fight goes on longer. But for me, I feel like Yuri's going to be able to throw the kitchen sink at Glover. I think he stuns him in round 2, possibly round 3, and he gets the finish here, and he gets crowned the new light heavyweight champion in the UFC. But with that, I feel like he racks up a lot of volume. I think he could, in the first 2-3 rounds, he could do exactly what he did last fight, where he tops 70 significant strikes. Maybe he tops 80, or it goes farther than that. He gets a knockdown, and then with him doing it in the second or third round, it gets some points on top of the win for getting the finish there. So I could see him getting over 100 fantasy points here, but I could also see him getting more so 85 to 90. But even so, I think he's a must in DraftKings this week, with just the potential that he has and scoring with the striking. He was hard to pass up. So with this, I'm going Jiri Prochazka at 8,900. The last person I'm going with is Manel Kape, aka Starboy. He comes in at 9,200 salary. He's fighting Rogerio Bontorin here, as you see right there. In his first 2 fights, he lost to Pantoja and Nikolai, in which he lost by decision. This guy has big time boxing background. His hands are quick as can be. And like, he came in here, a former Rising champion, where there was a lot of hype around him. Started out slow, and there's 2 fights, like in the first 2 rounds, he started out slow, and then in round 3 he picked it up and he damaged Nikolai and Pantoja, but he wasn't able to get the finish, and he wound up losing those 2-1 decisions in both those fights. But then since then, he's come in. He came in and got the knockout of Osborne, who just got a first-round knockout last week by flying knee. He picks up that victory over Osborne. And then he came in December against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who ironically fought last week as well against Jeff Molina. That fight was going back and forth for the first round, where Zhumagulov was able to grapple him along the cage and even hit him with a couple good shots in that fight. But Kape came in, he knocked him down twice with his hands, and then just finished him off with a fury of uppercuts, overhand shots, and combinations along the cage to finish him before the first round ended. And now he's gone up against a brute in Rogerio Bontorin, who cuts down to flyweight. He's normally, I believe, a bantamweight or featherweight. He is, since the last 3-4 fights, has cut down to flyweight. So he's going to be a bigger guy, and he likes to grapple up and strike. So it's going to present an interesting challenge for Kape, knowing that this guy might try and take him down and limit the striking that he can do. But I feel like in this matchup, this guy is a must to use this week in DraftKings. This guy has one of the best hands in the division, minus a couple of people, of course. He's very quick. He has great movement. He knows how to move his head. And you see right there, he has 2 first-round knockouts against tough opponents in Zumagulov and Osborne, and he knocked them out in the first round. I feel like he gets the first round knockout in this fight against Rogerio Bontrine. Bontrine has been knocked out several times in his career. I believe Kai Car France knocked him out a few fights ago. And if Kai Car France can do it, I feel like Manel Cape can do it too, because Cape's striking rivals Kai Car France's striking, and his hands are faster as well. So I predict a first round finish for Manel Cape against Rogerio Bontrine. And with that, I feel like he's going to be one of the optimal fighters in DraftKings this week. And at 9,200, he's going to be my most expensive fighter this week. Luckily, he's only the second most salary fighter of the week behind Valentina Shevchenko. But I feel like he has the best matchup at that high salary cap to be able to use him and not worry about him having a low production. So once again, with the last person in my lineup, I'm going Manel Cape, 9,200 salary. Once again, my 6-fighter lineup is Jacob Malkoun, Young Ho Kang, Jack Della Maddalena, Andre Diallo, Jiri Prochaska, and Manel Cape. That'll wrap things up with my DFS by Cage episode 31. I will be back next week to give you guys episode 32 of DFS by Cage, which is my 6-fighter lineup for UFC Vegas 57, which is headlined by a banger of a matchup between Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett. That is a big-time top 10 matchup in the division, and I'm looking forward to giving you guys my DraftKings predictions for Vegas 57. But other than that, as always, if you haven't done so already, please follow and subscribe to us on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. And don't forget to smash the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already on YouTube. And please hit up in the comment section and give us your 6-fighter lineup for UFC 275 and let me know what you think of my lineup and give me any advice that you want to give me and what you think to go and do moving forward. But other than that, that'll wrap things up with today's show. I'm your host, Cage, and I will see you guys next time for DFS by Cage or any other video that I put out here on the Cage My IQ network. I thank you guys so much for tuning in for every video and every interview. And other than that, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.